You're listening to the Business Communicators.
Let's move on to, kind of the headlines of the week. And we've got a few minutes left on the podcast. And so I think the biggest story in the world, probably this past week at least, has been Facebook. And there's kind of two reasons why. So the first one is on Monday. So I alluded to this earlier, but I was traveling this past week, and I landed in Newark, probably Monday around 3:30, 4 o'clock Eastern time. And I got a text from a friend who lives over in Europe and said, "Hey, is Instagram down in the US?" I was like, "Oh, I have no idea. I literally just landed, pulled up, couldn't see anything." And then I pulled up Twitter, saw the news, saw that apparently Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp were all down for 6 hours. And I went to actually WhatsApp to message you guys in our group thread. And then I realized, wait, WhatsApp is owned by Facebook. Why am I messaging you there? So I had to go the old-fashioned way and actually text you guys. But Facebook down for 6 hours. It had large implications for small businesses throughout the world and significantly impacted, even basic communications in many countries. Because a lot of countries, that's how they communicate. They don't use iMessage. They use WhatsApp. And it's secure. It's fast. It's easy.
It's free.
It's free.
Yeah.
I'm curious on what your takeaways were from this, and maybe just your thoughts on such a large platform being down for 5 to 6 hours and how it impacts us as communications professionals and just humans.
The first thing I thought was, if it happened to them, it can happen to anybody. And then for them, I kind of felt bad for them that it happened, because when I saw the different memes, especially the memes from Twitter,
that was savage.
For the rest of you, welcome aboard.
But as for communicators, it really made me think about, wow, we have so many different alternatives out there, and it was you need to jump on those alternatives, because while Facebook and Twitter and WhatsApp were down, it was an advantage for the other social platforms. That's what I was really thinking about at the time. And for them. So, and then what is Facebook going to do about it? Not just for them now in the moment, but for the future. What does that mean for them?
I also think it's very interesting that it came on the heels of the internal whistleblower. It's not necessarily breaking news what all she was saying, but it was breaking news that she was on 60 Minutes, and it was breaking news that she's getting the New York Times coverage from it. But we've talked about, I don't think Facebook's going to go away. I think if anything, it's probably just going to continue to get stronger and stronger, and we just have to understand it for what it is it's an information dissemination platform. And I don't see it shrinking until we start to see advertisers or small businesses or people to stop using it. And I don't think any of those are going to happen anytime soon.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. And I did think the timing was a little bit interesting. So I do wonder if it was malicious. I don't know that we'll know. I think Facebook issued a statement on it, but usually these hacks come out, several months down the line. I don't know that anybody's taken responsibility for it. So it could just been random. But when I look at the long-term implications, there are two takeaways that I have here. And so we know that it's no secret that, many small businesses rely on Instagram and Facebook to communicate with customers, grow their business, sell their products. And Facebook and Instagram have done a great service with their marketplace and allowing these businesses to grow, especially during the last 18 to 20 months. But I think if you're a small business owner or just a business owner in general, or a communications professional, it's important to remember two things. One, owned channels are still important. You've got to own your channels. And two, it shows you why you should diversify your platforms. We're not saying that you have to be on every platform, right? You don't have to be on Twitch. You don't have to be on Snapchat or Clubhouse, but make sure that you're not just reliant on one platform. And it's interesting. So at Pierpont, we've got our VP of digital, his name's Chris Ferris, and he actually sent a note out a few days ago to our team. And I asked him if I could share it, and he said absolutely. But it really echoes kind of what I thought, except he said it much better than I did. So that's why I wanted to read it. But he said, unlike websites, no businesses actually control Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn. If a website goes down, that falls on the business and its web department or website partner. When a social media channel fails, any organization who relies on that channel has no real recourse for restoring it. You simply must wait until the social media company itself identifies the problem and remedies it. As we saw on Monday, that can take many hours. So we gave a few tips and advice. The first one is be active. Investing in a diverse set of communication channels can insulate a company for outages like this. Be diverse by using a website plug in like LivePerson or Olark. Organizations can stay connected to their online communities, even if Facebook, for example, is not available. He also said, don't forget advertising. So running ads on only one platform can leave a business vulnerable to outages like the one that occurred on Monday. So he suggests that running ads on different platforms, whether it's Google, YouTube, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, or otherwise, can result in maybe a more diverse online audience. And then lastly, he said invest in first-party data. So first-party data is information that businesses and advertisers have collected from their own online sources, such as websites, email subscription, or apps. And yeah, I thought that was really sound advice. And Thomas, I know you're a data analytics person. I mean, what do you think about that?
I think the only thing that he's lacking is have a backup plan. Follow that emergency.
Oh, exactly.
Just have that. Okay, if this happens, no matter how far fetched it is, if this happens, here's what we're gonna do. Hey, we're gonna move our message from Facebook to LinkedIn or to MySpace, as I saw come across our screen just now.
It's just like Enron. You can't put all your eggs in one basket. You
Yeah.
know? And I hate to look at it that way, but you're right. Backup plan.
Yeah.
You know, just at least acknowledge that something could happen to the platforms you don't own. Something could happen to the platforms you do own, and to kind of think through, okay, if this happens, what do we do next?
Yeah.
And you don't have to spend a whole lot of time on it, but at least think about it in the back of your mind. And you mentioned first-party data, and that's going to get really important as we move forward the future, because as we go through cookieless traffic and cookieless measurements, and so you're going to have to start relying on your data from like Google and Facebook and LinkedIn, and Intuit and a bunch of other different companies. So it's important to start now collecting your first-party data. Start to have those communication channels that you own, that you can put out the message from.
Yeah.
You know what's really interesting, Thomas, that you talk about data, and you know that these platforms do provide data, but still people are not educated as to how data can help them. And it would be interesting to me to see if people would get more into that. And when you're a small business, that has got to be part of your plan as well. And I don't think they think of it that way.
It's interesting you say small business. One of our past guests from last season, who's going to be releasing the top 50 barbecue joints in Texas or in the world, depending on which way you want to look at it, said it best. You know, these barbecue joints need to put their hours online. They need to have their website updated. They need to have their Facebook pages updated. Because if I'm going to drive 2 hours to go to a barbecue joint and it's closed because your website hasn't been updated in 6 months, that's on you. That's not on the consumer.
Because they're so busy running the business.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know this is sort of an anecdotal example, but we had probably 3-4 years ago, Emily Herron for a IBC Houston luncheon. If you're not familiar with the name Emily Herron, you might be familiar with Champagne and Chanel on Instagram. So when we had her join us for a discussion, I think she had maybe 200,000-300,000 followers on Instagram at the time. And I think right now she's got like 1.1 million. And these aren't bots, by the way. These are actual, followers. Her engagement numbers are through the roof. And I think Fortune actually recognized one of her friends for doing, being a huge advocate on Instagram. But I asked that question to her, what happens when Instagram changes their algorithms, or maybe deprioritize your page, or maybe something happens and you can't post on a daily basis? Like, what are you doing to diversify your brand? And she said that was something even 3-4 years ago that she was thinking about, because I think at that point she was using some sort of app that allowed her to sell products or get like referral codes. Then Instagram changed it, so they wanted it to go through Instagram shops. And she said that was something that she was thinking about. And now she's got like brand deals. She's working with like Nordstrom on product lines. So she's diversifying her own portfolio to make sure that she's insulated if something does happen to a social media platform, that she still does have that source of revenue coming in. So I think that's incredibly important. But
you've been listening to the Business Communicators.